Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Farmers, Extravagant Trade Group, and this is your end of day as well as your end of week market recap. What a week it was. The way I would describe this week was, I think the last video I gave market end of day market video, I think was on Wednesday, and I think I used the same word over and over. That word is momentum. A lot of momentum in this market and a lot of interesting moves. I'll get to some of those moves because there's a lot to go over, but risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer right there. So today it kind of felt like I wouldn't say every day this week, but many days this week, there was a couple groups that just kind of exploded to the upside. Today, you had very strong. I think the two big stories today were what happened in Bitcoin today, which I believe finished up close to 3% for the day, which is a nice move there. And then the other story was what you kind of see with highlighted all in the dark green is the precious metals names. Particularly silver had a huge day. This morning, when I do it's one of the first things that I do in the morning is the pre-market commentary for members, which is just like a 10-minute video. But I was talking about how gold was out to new highs, and gold has been leading the precious metals move, but silver certainly made a very nice catch-up move today too. All right, so I'll get to all those moves in just a second. I figured let's just go over the indices and talk about what they're doing. A little bit of churning around a little bit today. It talked about in the midday note today that the indices really uh, haven't been doing too much, I think, from the open. If you rewind to yesterday, there was a big gap up. That was after the Taiwan Semiconductor had good earnings, and Qs gapped up to about plus 1.1%, and then essentially finished on the lows of the day. So again, opportunities to kind of sell if you're, sell the open, which works over and over, and then to kind of, watch and observe how things went. And then obviously you had another big report, which was Netflix, which finished up, I think, over 10% for the day. A really strong report by Netflix. But for now, even though the overall like S&P index, and I'd say the Qs too, were a little bit boring towards the end of this week, because all those moves happening in the overnight market, the trend is okay here. And as long as we're pushing here above the 5 period moving average, that's why. And by the way, anything that you have on your chart, somebody was asking me earlier about what indicators that I have on my screen. Any indicator that you have on your screen should be able to help you, right? And you're not just putting indicators on your screen just for the hell of it. They should each be giving you or helping you. One of the things that helps me a lot is just watching the 5 period moving average. When the market is really trending and when buyers are in control, price does not go below that 5 period moving average. When it does, then you've got distribution. But since we've broken out of the value area, which happened it was Wednesday of last week, while price has kind of been a little bit all over the place on a day to day, it's continuing to move above that 5 period moving average, and that's what really counts. And so you got a breakout that's ongoing, and you got price sticking and staying above the 5 period moving average. That's for SPY, very simple. Are a little bit more. They're not as simplistic, I would say, and a little bit more complicated because we did take out that virgin point of control. So, when this happens, it's kind of like, hey, great, we've achieved an upside target, but you could see that it's having some trouble here, right? It's met with overhead supply, and it's kind of struggling a little bit to find the next direction. So it's putting in some consolidation, which is normal. Once you take one of these big levels out that, we almost hit it here. We didn't, we kind of came back in, but this does not surprise me. And when you look back when this was taken out earlier in this week, they said, okay, let's see what happens. Well, it hasn't been in the easiest market to trade because, as I mentioned, a couple of these days, basically the open was the high. So again, it's giving you, if you're trading the right way and understanding that buying the close and selling the open is a much more profitable trade. But if you're coming in, for example, yesterday when the Qs were up 1.1%, if you're coming in and trying to look for new trades in that environment, often you're going to be disappointed. And I think probably a couple times, if you're doing it the wrong way and looking for opportunities when you should be looking to take some profits, that could eat into your profitability. But that's what we have for now. And I think, we are above this 5 period moving average. Again, it's not as smooth and clean as the S&P, but but it still looks okay, I think, for now, right? And it's something that we'll have to watch to see if price can stay above that 5 period moving average and also above the value area for the month. Small caps made a big move earlier in the week. They just kind of stalled out here the last 2 days. They were down a little bit yesterday, and they actually finished in the red today, down 0.2 percentage points. So, and if you look what was red today, let's go back to our to my percentage change from the open. But if you look, banks, which are financials, are a big component of that IWM, and they were down. The KBE was down 1.2% for the day. So again, there's nothing wrong with that in my opinion. And even like again, I'll get to the precious metals and the Bitcoin, but if you look at where there's been some real strength in this market over the last few weeks, some of the strongest areas have been the financials, right? But they're just pausing a little bit, letting the moving averages kind of catching up a little bit. Perfectly normal after you've had this type of a breakout over the last week and a half. So they're just kind of pausing a little bit. Also, again, I'm just talking about some of the groups that were very strong about a week ago, right? This is perfectly normal too. Software had a breakout, right? And it's just kind of digesting a little bit, right? Break higher, digest, maybe let that 20-day moving average catch up. Cyber stocks were really strong. So all I'm doing here is just looking to see if anything has really changed or if they're just resting a little bit after a big move. And that's what I see for cyber stocks too. Again, look at how far the 20-day moving average is away. So I said this in a video earlier in the week. I said, let these things kind of chill out a little bit because we've got a very nice bull market where it's this group goes and then it's that group. So that said, let's look at what Bitcoin, because that I think was one of the big stories of this week. When you look at the performance for the week, which I'll get to in just a second, you do have a break above the value area for the month. Just waiting for that to materialize. All right, so here's your break, out of the value area and advancing a little bit more than where we got last month at the end of September. If you scale back a little bit, we're kind of at this upper end of the channel. Again, I don't have like an exact channel drawn here, but you could see this pattern of lower highs. We did break above this last high. Next one to break over would be here. And now that the week is complete, we can kind of look to see how this is shaping up. Again, it's a weird looking type of pattern because normally you don't see consolidation go on for this long. Usually after a move like this, you see consolidation and then a move higher. This has taken a long time. So it's really worn on people's patience. However, I think there's a lot of like those animal spirits that are really excited about what's going on in this space. So very, very strong. And stocks like MSTR had a huge week. I took advantage of this today. I did not get involved in MSTR on this first move up. But once I kind of set an alert on this, waiting for this to kind of break back above this little range, even though it did come right into the top of the value area. And I caught this one today. So I took off a good portion of the trade because this thing was up over 11% today. Some stocks don't do that. Like as much as attention as Nvidia, like I've been hearing a lot about Nvidia call buying. Nvidia was okay this week. It was up 2%, right? The stock was up 11% today, right? And so again, you go where there's momentum and where there's movers, and of course you pay attention to some other things too. Even though some of that group, the semi group, didn't have you know as big of a move, certainly had its moments this week. But in any event, I'll move on. This was really nice, and there is an ETF that if you're not comfortable with going long this one name, right, you could look at this DAPP. This is the VanEck Digital Transformation ETF. I like this ETF because it's a little bit more concentrated. Sometimes when these developers put together one of these ETFs, portfolio manager, they kind of, it's diluted a little bit when they're just trying to pick names to make sure that they've got the right theme and they've got an ETF. This only has about 20 names in it, right? And so it's kind of concentrated. It's got Coin, Block, Core, Mara. So a little bit of a different type of ETF, but this is also now trending right above its 5-period moving average. So I mentioned I would get to gold and the precious metals as well too. Let's bring up gold. There it is. But this is out to new highs, right? And we've talked about this quite a bit, especially when I do the pre-market commentary. And I do have a position in GLD and I have a position in IBIT in the TTG trend portfolio. So these are working nicely for me. But here's your check back into support, top of the October value area. And since then, it's just been basically up and to the right. So new highs there. I mentioned SLV had a big day today. Look at this, this thing really, silver really stalled out at this version point of control. So again, that's why I pay attention to them. I sold on this. I even tweeted this out on this day. I said, let's see what happens with this overhead supply. And it really kind of got hit after that. But it didn't break down. And next VPOC up would be another 3% up, which would be 31.62. So if you're long this, I would think that, if you're trading, if you're not trading in the long term, if you're kind of intermediate or short-term trading, you probably want to take some off here. And, and then maybe look for a move after this to kind of, if it settles back like it did last time. All right. So very, very strong, these silver miners, and gold miners. I like AGI personally. This is the Alamos. That's a gold name. And the WPM, is the precious metal, wheat and precious metals. Unfortunately, I was long this for a bit, and unfortunately, I did not stay long it to take advantage of today's move. But you can't be in every name. That's okay. So other than that, I wanted to talk about just a couple other quick concepts, but those were the main moves. And then, of course, so the one concept that I'll talk about right away because it's just kind of staring me in the face is you look at what medical devices did today, up 2.8%. And I have to say, of course, we're going to have things like we're going to have an election a couple weeks from now. There's all this talk about what the Fed is going to do too. But I think more important than that is how companies are executing, right? We're now basically in the heart of earnings season. And I've got more than 20 names that are showing that have had really strong earnings results. So we'll see if this continues. That's going to be in the focus next week. Next week is a little bit light on economics. So I really think that is going to provide our setups going forward. One name that I'm favoring, and I did stick this in the TTG trend portfolio this week, is Morgan Stanley. I think that dips are going to get bought in this one. They beat, if you listen to some of their earnings metrics or saw their earnings metrics, they beat on just about every line item. So again, it probably needs to consolidate a little bit. It did try to resolve higher after some digestion after earnings, but I think that this is a great looking name. And again, take a look, if that um huge move up is a little bit distracting, zoom out a little bit, right? Because I think this move could just be getting going, right? All this is doing is just getting back to where it was back in 2022. So when you put it in that perspective, that the stock hasn't done much other than this last breakout this week, I think that this has more runway to go. All right. Another name, which I've been all over these private equity companies, right? Blackstone had a huge earnings week, right? I've been long Blackstone and KKR, both in my trading account and in my TTD trend portfolio. I think that they're, as well as the banks executed on earnings, I think these are better because they're just faster moving, right? They're a little bit more aggressive. They've got less regulation and they take more risk. So I think these are great groups to be in besides, what you saw. And so again, I think there'll be a lot more to concentrate on for next week in terms of movers with earnings. But here's what you have for the week is S&P finished up about 1% for the week and small caps outperformed. They're now up for the month. They're now leading for the month. If you go back to this Sorry to go back and forth here, but for the month, you've got small and mid caps. MDY is up 2.5% month to date. So that is leading in terms of the major indices. Interesting to see again, gold miners were up 7% this week. They led. Home builders had a big week this week, up 4.5%. Utilities had a nice week, and even though the banks kind of took the day off today, very strong, up 3%. Chinese internet names down 7%, even though that they recouped some of those losses today. They were up nicely. Um, the solar group just can't get going, down 5% for the week, and still pretty ugly there. All right, guys, I'll leave it there. As usual, we will come up with a watch list for the week. Here's how our watch list finished. Again, this doesn't include my current positions. I'm not going to show you those because that's for members, right? You got to be a member to see every trading position. But our watch list did quite well. As I mentioned in the beginning of the week, this got off to a crazy hot start, and I thought that we might kind of come in a little bit, but still some of the names that continue to kind of perform pretty well that were on the list from the beginning of the week. But I think a couple of the better trades that I had this week was the MSTR today, and being long. Blackstone worked really well this week. Um, a lot of good trades. Just kind of going through one second. Couple other really good trades that we've had so far this month. Square has been a real nice winner for me. Hood has been a nice winner. A couple of the banks. GEV has been a real nice winner. TRGP was very nice for an energy play, unbelievable. Earlier in the month, TIGR was a real nice winner. We caught a couple of the China names, and so on and so forth. But we got a good start to the month, and look to keep it going as more and more names report earnings. We'll be keeping tabs on that. Have a great weekend, everybody.